Thanks for sticking with us at the top of the hour. I'm Natasha Zuves in today for Nichole Berlie. And just moments ago, right here, President Biden making it known to his voters he is ready to return to the White House for another 4 years, following what critics are saying was the worst debate performance by an incumbent in American history. Biden faltered while Trump made a multitude of falsehoods on some of the key issues that matter most to voters. In his first rally since the debate, Biden emphasizing just a few minutes ago his age is not slowing him down.
Folks, I give you my word as a Biden, I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job. It's quite frankly, the stakes are too high. The stakes are too high.
And News Nation's Kelly Meyer and Robert Sherman have been tracking the debate reaction and what voters are saying. Kelly, let's start with you. You are live at this rally. What is the key takeaway?
Yeah, Natasha, as soon as he walked out onto this stage, you could tell it was a very different President Joe Biden than we saw at the debate last night. He walked out looking refreshed, at ease. He didn't have a tie on, and he was really feeding off the energy of his crowd of supporters. Remember last night's audience? There was none at the debate there last night. He also had his teleprompter there today, and he took many shots at former President Donald Trump here today, emphasizing some of the same things he did in that debate last night, but doing so on this stage, cheered on by his supporters, and he addressed his debate performance directly, admitting that it wasn't his best debate, but vowing that he can do this job. Take a listen.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
So Biden admitting a bit there that he got knocked down and he's getting back up. And as we said, he took several jabs at former President Trump, reprising some of the same insults that he made last night during the debate, saying, I spent 90 minutes on stage debating a guy that has the moral of an alley cat. He also said and focused on the lies of former President Trump. He says Donald Trump is a one-man crime wave, followed by chants from the crowd of lock him up. And as folks that we talked to, supporters here in the room, we asked them about last night's performance at the debate from President Joe Biden. They say that they were discouraged and disappointed, but that it wouldn't change their vote. They say they are voting on substance, not on one debate, and they feel as though what's going around in Washington and other circles, that he won't be the nominee and he won't take on Trump in November. They don't believe that. They believe he will be the nominee and that he can beat Trump come this November. Natasha.
Kelly, I am sure that some in that crowd were just waiting with bated breath after last night's debate performance and the sheer instability that it caused in the party. What are they telling you after that speech? Was this the redemption moment that they were waiting for from Biden?
So this is certainly a different, as we said, a different President Biden than you saw last night during the debate. This is the performance that the campaign wanted to see and that they were able to see here today. Of course, that he had that audience that we were talking about here today, unlike they had at the debate last night, that really seemed to energize President Biden here today. He also had the First Lady by his side. They kissed each other before the debate started, and she kissed him on the cheek following after. So he had the support of the First Lady. But if you were here in this building here today, you may not have been may not have realized what happened last night at the debate. It seems like the folks here were just moving on, and it seems as the campaign is trying to move on, keeping the focus on both the lies they say coming from former President Trump, as well as the fundraising numbers. They're keeping a focus on that, saying they raised $14 million on debate day and going into this morning. So looking forward on that, and also touching on independent voters, saying that they are winning that group of voters over as well as a result of the debate last night. Natasha.
Hey, Kelly Meyer live at that rally in Raleigh. Thank you so much. And meanwhile,
thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.